Throughout China's history, the spirits of plants have been transformed into incense.
This is borneol, a crystallized compound of a tropical plant. It's believed to play a significant role in the treatment and prevention of epidemics.
FuJingliang has given new life to the culture of incense in China. He's worked with incense for more than 40 years.
My concept of incense culture represented something new in China. My incense culture is an integrated system. It involves the history and theory behind incense, as well as aromatic herbs and medicines, incense tools and sets, and the blending of aromas. So I think it's fair to give my concept the name of incense culture.
The pandemic brought incense into the spotlight in China for both normal citizens and medical professionals alike. We take a look into the mysterious culture of incense.
The great poet Chu Yan revered incense as a mentor, one who taught him values and ethical principles. He pondered whether his deeds were right or good by comparing them to incense.
As a leader of modern incense culture in China, Fu has taken on many new endeavors. He's created a website, published a book, and even established a company to promote the development of incense. Those efforts have established a solid foundation for the development and heritage of incense culture. Fu also hosts and attends incense lectures and events all around China.
We can divide China's incense culture into 4 stages. The first stage is ancient times, the period from 4000 BC to 2000 BC. The second stage, which includes the spring and autumn periods as well as the Warring States period, is when the culture of incense began to sprout. The third stage includes the Han, Tan, and Song dynasties. It was a peak period of incense development. But in the fourth stage, the culture of incense faded.
His knowledge and experience have helped him cultivate thousands of fans and successors of incense culture. Based on the historical traditions of ancient Chinese, who utilized incense in almost every aspect of daily life, Fu has dedicated himself to popularize the lifestyle of incense in the modern era. He has developed innovative burning incense accessories, food, and wine that make use of incense. Perhaps most importantly, he's developed incense prescriptions believed to be good for health. Besides the purported health benefits, these incense prescriptions also allow modern people to relate to the experiences of their ancestors. Fu's passion for incense is closely related to his experiences in childhood, as well as his family environment.
When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I had to memorize a series of ancient books. 4 books and 5 classics. Inner Canon of the Yellow Emperor, Tao Tu Chin, and more. As a child, I didn't understand those books, but I memorized them as I was told. Incense was indispensable in the everyday life of the elder generations in my family, like my grandparents. They always burnt incense when they wanted to focus on something or were doing something very important. I didn't understand why, but because of their influence, burning incense became one of my habits as well. I was naughty as a boy. I'd steal incense and had lots of fun burning, eating, and experimenting with it. I caused lots of trouble. Those childhood experiences had a big influence on me. But during this special period, it all came to a halt. For about 10 years, I stopped dabbling in incense.
During those 10 years, Fu finished school, then tried his hand at jade carving, archaeology, and teaching calligraphy. In the early 80s, Fu was reading through ancient books in the hopes of finding new direction for his life. From those books, he found one of the crucial keys of Chinese culture, incense, and inspired him to pursue the topic of incense. But he couldn't have imagined the challenges along the way.
I did encounter lots of difficulties during this journey. For example, I decided to visit reclusive masters of incense to learn about the history and heritage of incense, then combine that knowledge with my memories of the books I read in my childhood. In addition, lots of incense ingredients are difficult to find. I didn't know where to find them, so I had to figure out where to find good ingredients first and to understand how their growth environment affects their quality. It was also difficult to physically gather those ingredients because of the potential injuries and risks posed by wild animals, insects, and potential accidents. I've often encountered lots of adversity, but I often found it interesting because I enjoy having fun and I love to explore new things. And since I believed this journey I had chosen was meaningful, I just kept on going without hesitation.
Over a span of 9 years, Fu traveled throughout the Chinese countryside, collecting and experimenting with high-quality incense ingredients. Finally, he was ready for the next step, creating incense at the sacred Mount Tai.
I went to Mount Tai to verify what I had learned from books about the heritage and recipes of incense. As incense can easily be affected by the presence of other scents, different environments can affect the qualities, sillage, and effects of incense. The air deep in the mountains is relatively pure. Without interference from other scents, I could relax and focus on my work undisturbed. During the process, I repeatedly compared the incense I made to the recipes and techniques passed down in ancient books. I wanted to find out whether I was doing it right and what level I had managed to reach. For example, if I wanted to reproduce incense from the Han Dynasty, then what did I need to do? Did I reproduce it successfully? And what about incense used in the Tang Dynasty? What incense was used in the studies or palaces or even cure diseases of that time? I need to test it out.
Over a period of 3 years, Fu would spend up to 2 consecutive months at a time living deep in the mountains. Despite living with just the bare minimum, he found enjoyment in the rugged lifestyle.
For each 2-month stay, I would bring 20 kilograms of food. When I had eaten up all the food, that told me 2 months' time had passed. I felt I communicated with the ancients, finding out the milestones of their lives.
During his time on Mount Tai, Fu was able to recreate 2,600 blends of incense, which becomes the foundation of modern Chinese incense culture. In 2020, incense sachets believed to protect against the pandemic were in demand in China. People are fond of incense, simply by nature. Since the period when the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor was written, through practices in their works and lives, the people of ancient China understood the benefit of the aromatic plants. For example, detoxifying snake venom, pest control, modifying temperament, improve physical wellness, and even to prevent epidemics. The most important discovery was that some aromatic plants could be added into sachets, which would give off an aroma as a result of the wearer's body heat. Then those aromas would be absorbed through the skin, the nose or ears, or the body's meridian network. And these aromas would exert certain physiological effects. As modern technology evolves, the chemical components of the herbs are extracted, analyzed, and experimented with, so we have the opportunity to understand the mechanisms of incense. For example, those aromas can enter our bodies through our respiratory tracts, then help our nasal or upper respiratory tract mucosae to produce a certain antibody called immunoglobulin A, which can prevent bacteria and viruses from surviving in our system. Xu started her research on aromatherapy after attending the Sanskrit chant concert, which was held by Fu in 2016. Over 10,000 people attended the concert, where hundreds of kilograms of incense were burnt. With addition of stage lights and Buddhist mantras, the event was a feast for the senses.
Incense has its own language. Different incense diffuses different aromas. Blending incense is similar to telling a story with musical notes. My students ask me, if incense has its own language, then what would that language sound like with music? How does incense influence a person from their emotions and mental state to their physical body? I hope to seek answers to these questions.
After 30 years spent working with incense, Fu now views incense very differently than he did in his childhood.
Different aromas exist within the incense made by different students, as everyone has their unique characteristics. The heart state of being, the love and blessings, the power of thought and intention, they all go into the incense. And for that reason, I remind everyone to focus their attention, quiet the mind, and become one with the incense. Only through this approach can the incense transcend beyond the limits of the world, guiding and assisting us to the essence and spiritual energy of the universe. This brings us closer and closer to wisdom.
His incense-making process involves communication with the spirit of plants, and the herbs reincarnates into the world through Fu's masterful creation.
Continuing Saint Yu's path like a diligent swallow, Yu the Great was a king of ancient China, a saint. He dedicated his life to the well-being of people, and the swallow is regarded as an auspicious bird in China. Swallows are also considered incarnations of Fu Xi, a hero in Chinese mythology. I hope I can bring happiness to others throughout my life, just like a swallow who follows in the footsteps of saints.
The incense culture of China, rekindled by Fu, allows people to commune with nature and helps them to enrich their inner worlds. Perhaps incense will also serve as a bridge into the future.